framing this event as giving you all the answers. It's about bringing voices together, listening and sharing that perspective. Because this is our community, and this is our society, and this is our world. And we want to make sure that we all feel safe, and that also future generations feel safe, and that we're able to change the conversation.
I am Maria Lindforth-Hall. I'm a counselor in Southwark, but I'm also a founder and director of SU Mano Amiga. SU Mano Amiga is a charity that was founded in 2016. And the reason why I founded the charity was because before I was elected councillor for the first time in 2014, I found that there were a lot of people suffering from domestic violence. And this was on the Latin American community. I'm Latin American, mujer. And I thought, well, I'm going to do an event and find out how many people really are suffering from domestic violence. And then I did this event, and I found out that the hall was full and there were people waiting outside. And we have to have loudspeakers relaying outside. And the people were crying, and the people were saying, well, what do we do? And thank God, the police were there. And the police were able to calm them down and to talk to them and to give them confidence again, because these people have lost completely the confidence on the police. And they didn't want to say anything. Bearing in mind that a lot of Latin Americans are illegal people in here, so therefore it was very difficult for them to go to the police to start with. And so when I saw that the people were actually saying to the police, well, what can I do? And this woman was absolutely fantastic. You know, she was a human being, not a policewoman. And she talked to them and she said, for us, the most important thing is what you are suffering, what is happening to you. And so therefore, on that day, and after that experience, I thought, I'm going to fund the charity. It took me 18 months to fund the charity because it takes a long time to go to charity commission, etc. But I never regret for a minute what I did, because especially during the lockdown, I had between 24, sorry, only the beginning, so it's not in domestic violence, so just forget enough until 2020. I used to have between 3 and 6 phone calls a week, and there were difficult cases, and I had to assess those cases. But then, my God, 2020 arrived. And in 2020, I didn't know what to do with myself, because myself was in isolation, because my husband has cancer and I had to close myself in, and I couldn't open the doors to welcome people anymore. So therefore, I was at home answering phone calls. When one call was ringing, when I was on the one phone call, the other one was ringing and the other one was ringing. So there were between 24 and 26 phone calls a day. I was sometimes going to bed at 2 o'clock in the morning, and sometimes what I decided to do is to put the telephone on vibration, because then I decided when to answer if it was an emergency. And there were many cases like this. So those people were found it overwhelming for them, because in some occasions, or in many occasions, they were in one flat, one bedroom flat, and they felt themselves isolated. They didn't know what to do with themselves. The violence started, and what happened? They had 2 to 3 kids with them, and those 3 kids were in the middle of it. So at the beginning, it was not only domestic violence, it was just the kids being involved. And then it became also mental health problems, because those kids developed mental health problems afterwards. So during those months, on the 2020 and 2021 lockdowns, my life was just a nightmare, but it was more of a nightmare for the victims of domestic violence. And there were many survivors, and excellent survivors, that they are now empowered women that have gone ahead and they were working and they are happy and they have left the man that was the perpetrator. And at the beginning they live in a hostel or in a refuge or in a house of a friend, but now they said to themselves, no, I'm strong, I'm empowered, and that is what the SU Mano Amiga does, empower women to live by themselves, to forget about the perpetrator and to forget about the bad moments, and to live their lives to the full, and to continue living, really. And those people now are really amazing. They are teaching me now how to survive. And we do all sorts of things for these women. We do dances, for example, on Saturday, we have with the sponsorship of Siobhan Davis Studios. It's the third or fourth occasion. We do dancing for women because I think that the women, when they are dancing, they are just forgetting about everything. They just think about themselves and think about how free they are and how empowered they are, and they enjoy that time. And one comment of a woman was, I was tired and I thought I have to work again tonight and I don't want to go to this dance. But then she came to the dance and you will see her, she was dancing, a smile from ear to ear. She was enjoying herself because she was free in an environment where she was welcome, she was free, and she didn't have to remember her nightmare of domestic violence. So I think that domestic violence is something that we have to stop. And we have to stop at the beginning. Because if you don't stop from the beginning, then the whole thing continues and evolves into something that it is a nightmare. So what are we doing in SU Mano Amiga? We are also looking after the children, because the children are the men and women of the future. And therefore, we don't want them to become perpetrators themselves one day. So we are looking after those children, we are teaching those children, we are telling them what the rights are, what the wrongs and the rights are, and letting them express themselves. And it starts by bullying. I understand that sometimes somebody who used to do bullying in a school, they become a perpetrator at a later stage. And if you are not careful, those children, also that they are bullied, they copy the person who bullied them, and they become bullies themselves, and they become in a later stage a perpetrator. So therefore, we look after the mothers, we look after the children, but we also look after the families, because what happens is in some cultures, the families do not want to know. They don't want to understand, and they think, oh, you know, they married, or they choose this partnership, and it's for life. Don't come to us. You know, just look after yourselves, deal the problem by yourself, and that is not done. So we have to educate and inform also the parents. So our job is absolutely huge. So it's 3 generations that we have to look after. We have in here present our chairman of our trustees, Lina Maria Rosa. She is a wonderful woman, an inspiration by herself, and she is also the head of the Latinoamerican media. She's the head of Extra Media, and it's a newspaper, it's a radio, it's a television, and so she has helped me an awful lot to understand some of the problems, because obviously, as being a press, you get to know what happens around. And sometimes she sends me people and she tells me, you know, such and such is in trouble and they are not going to call you, so why don't you call them? And that is what I do. If they don't come to me, I go to them and I talk to them and I listen, because you have to become the biggest listener in the world. If you do not listen, then you haven't got anything. You have to listen, you have to understand, and you have to be a human being and caring. You have to really care about those people, and those people will survive, and one day they will thank you. Thank you very much.
In Ukraine, but in places like Syria, in Afghanistan, and other places in the world. So just a sort of a pause to reflect on the fact that we're able to come together in this space together, where others are literally fighting for their life at the moment. And can I give everybody, before I go in to get some of Caroline's pieces, A few years ago, I was working in one of the government departments, and you know, it was the open plan office, a bit of a conversation happening around desks. I work in the IT industry, so majority men, and somebody made a really sort of sexist remark. And ordinarily it would be left to someone like me to go, really, is that what you're going to say? And just as I turned, before I even had to say something, another man said, excuse me, I didn't like what you just said. I wouldn't want my wife or my daughters to be on the receiving end of something like that. You need to apologise to everyone. And inside my head I was like, yes! Finally, a man has spoken up. It's not just in the purview of men to sort this out either, but hey, I felt like the message was starting to land.
Others in the police service. I joined as a boy. I was 20 years old when I joined the police, and I've spent my working life trying to do good for the public. And recent events have been, I think, absolutely catastrophic for the relationship that the police have with women, and certainly Claire and I, as your senior police officers here, have absolute unequivocal recognition of that.
Talk about how I'm working really closely with my staff and across PSU to think about how we interact with victim survivors and how the impact of that interaction really, it helps with